This is why they don't come on, guys. It's nothing to do with me being mean. Was I mean to that guy?
Yes.
Okay. And how was I mean to him?
Well, I mean, I don't think that you're mean. I don't want to talk about you. But I thought you were a little bit mean.
How was that? What did I do? What did I do that was mean to him? At all?
I mean, you implied that was it him or the other guy? You implied that they don't read the Bible because they didn't know something.
Well, I mean, the issue of Galatians 1 is central to whether or not we should accept miracles and apparitions on face value.
Well, I do think the inferences you drew from Galatians 1 and the other texts from the Gospels, it doesn't really follow. Like, for example, you said...
Oh, so Galatians 1 is not about apparitions?
Well, he says, although I are an angel from heaven, or we are an angel from heaven.
Okay, and so that doesn't apply to as a principle on recognizing and discerning?
I mean, I suppose you could definitely apply that to apparitions, but I think that there's other miracles that attested the truth of Catholicism that do not, that you could not apply that to.
Could you understand that that's why I went to epistemology with the previous guy? Because every time you try to make this argument, you guys can't explain to me why this or that miracle or this or that vision or apparition, quote, proves Catholicism. Because it rests on a faulty epistemology that you guys just want to ignore and brush aside.
Okay, I would present it this way. I'm sure you're aware of, and you probably don't think much of it, and I'm not sure I do either, but I'm sure you're aware of C.S. Lewis and his like trifecta, liar, lunatic, Lord thing.
Yeah, it's a terrible argument.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that you could apply a similar logic when we're talking about the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church makes very bold claims of herself, just as Jesus did. And Jesus vindicated the fact that if Jesus was not what he claimed to be... Okay,
so if I make really bold claims, does that make me also a contender for the true religion? Just having bold claims?
No, that alone, no. It takes
you
more
said
than
that Jesus is like the Catholic Church in making bold claims. Well, what's that supposed to prove?
Well, because of the fact that if his claims were false, then the Pharisees would have been correct.
Okay, have you never heard of why this is a bad argument, the Lord, liar, lunatic?
Can I present how I apply it to the church before you destroy me?
I mean, you can present it, but are you aware of why it might be a bad argument?
Go ahead.
Well, the way that the Gospels, for example, present Jesus, or the way that the New Testament presents him, in no way gives the possibility that he is a lunatic or a liar. In fact, Peter says, know of assurance this day that God raised him from the dead and has made him Lord. So to know with assurance, and to then read these texts that talk about pulling down the strongholds and destroying every other worldview, that doesn't to me leave this evidentialist notion that there's this possibility that, well, maybe he is a liar and a lunatic. It actually excludes that possibility.
Well, I agree. That's part of the argument, is the fact, well, we know that he must be Lord because we see from the scriptures that he is not a liar. He was a man of great upstanding moral character, and that he's not a lunatic.
The premise of this argument is that you either have to accept, in other words, it puts God in the dock and allows the unbeliever to be the judge of God. That's the problem with the argument.
Okay. Well, I think that, so I'll just go ahead and present why I think it applies to Catholicism with regard to particular miracles. Okay,
but wait a minute. If it's not a good argument, then presenting it is not going to do anything. I don't care if you present it, but what is it supposed to do if it's a bad argument?
Well, I don't think it is. I have to finish presenting it so that people can decide if
well, I just explained to you why it is a bad argument.
But I don't think that you represented it correctly. Can I prove my version of it, I guess, my spin on it, at least?
But it's based on an evidentialist approach to argumentation. It's still an evidentialist approach. And my critique, that has been the critique from the very beginning tonight, is that all of these evidentialist arguments fail because they're based on classical foundationalism. Do you get that point?
I understand that point. I understand that that's your perspective. I don't think that the scriptures have the same position as you, because Jesus used his miracles to vindicate his ministry.
Yeah, but that doesn't conflict with my position, because using the miracles to vindicate does not themselves prove that the position is true or false. It's just an attestation or an evidence. I'm not against evidences.
But do you agree that for example, if Jesus claimed to be God and he was not, he would be a blasphemer?
Yeah, that's the argument in John when he's arguing with the Pharisees.
Exactly, but he demonstrated with his works, and he said, for which of my works do you kill me? So he was saying he did good works, and that vindicated the fact that he was from God, and particularly that he cast out devils.
Yeah, but you're missing the point, though, that, like, let's say I prove the resurrection to an unbeliever. Does that prove Christianity?
Well, not the event in itself.
Right.
But the
so
context
evidentialism, this is why evidentialism doesn't work. That's the point. And the problem with evidentialism is the root epistemic issue.
Well, I would say you have to make an argument in order to make the resurrection meaningful to the person you're talking to.
What's wrong? Yeah, I agree with that. So, but there's places for when you make evidential arguments. That doesn't make evidentialism true. That's two different things. Evidences are necessary, not evidentialism. It's one's an epistemic position. The other is not equated to an epistemic position. I believe in evidences. I'm not an evidentialist. I believe in evidences in the proper place.
That's fair. I don't think I would identify myself as an evidentialist per se either, unless you think natural theology is evidentialism.
Absolutely, they're very closely related. So
okay, I think it's a little bit, but I guess you can just tell me. I suppose you a priori reject it, but because of this difference in like fundamental approach. But do you at least see where I'm going with the fact that because if the church is not the true church and the papacy is not infallible, why would God accompany this church with these miracles that can only be from God, such as exorcisms that Jesus he explains they can only come
in the book of Mark? Somebody casts out demons without being a part of Jesus's company. So there's nothing about exorcisms themselves that necessarily proves that you're part of the true church.
Right, but why would God accompany miracles to a church that makes that miracle in particular?
Well, I don't grant that you all have all of these miracles. First of all, I don't grant Fatima as a miracle or any of these ridiculous apparitions even as miracles.
Well, I'm restricting it to the exorcisms because I think those they can't be demonic.
But how would that prove that you have the true church? Do you if Mary appears at Zaytun, Egypt, to the Coptics, does that prove monophysitism?
No, I think apparitions are a weaker evidence.
Okay, so where do you get the criteria? The status of exorcisms are above the weaker level of apparitions. Like, where do you derive this?
Well, because an apparition, I'm not speaking of these apparitions in particular, but an apparition could theoretically be a demon, whereas a exorcism could not be, according to Scripture.
Okay, but none of this would still really work to prove natural theology. And by the way, exorcisms don't have anything to do with natural theology.
Well, I think that it does have to do. Obviously, the Council of Trent does teach that miracles can prove the existence of God and the one true faith. So there is
so really at root it's an issue of natural theology, right?
Right, but I'm saying that the fact that a miracle such as exorcism can prove, that's part of the Catholic position.
Yeah, but again, it's all going to be interpreted on the basis of the paradigm. So you're going to interpret what are supposedly Catholic miracles according to the Catholic paradigm to back up the Catholic paradigm. When I see those things, I don't see any proof of Catholicism because I have a different paradigm. So there's no way that these evidences what I believe is that we're all reading these events through rose-colored glasses. So it's just like if you try to show, for example, an atheist, if we try to convince him of the resurrection of Christ through, say, historical testimonies or something like that, like he's going to interpret those things through his atheist lens, and he's going to say something like, well, okay, maybe something weird happened, and a guy did one time, come back from the dead, and it was some sort of weird phenomenon, and we just haven't explained it yet, but one day science will figure out why and how that happens, and it'll be explained one day. So do you see that there's nothing about that necessitates that it's self-evident that Christianity is true, and you even said earlier that just proving the resurrection wouldn't necessarily prove Christianity. So the root issue here is the natural theology, and I want to know why natural theology is true, because if natural theology fails, Roman Catholicism fails.
Right. I mean, I'm not as philosophically knowledgeable as you, so I don't know if I want to go into a deep... I'm committed to that position, being a Catholic, but I came to my Catholic position a different way than you did, because I was...
Okay, fair enough.
So I came to this from and I didn't study the philosophy too deeply, but presuppositionalism made sense to me. I was a Calvinist. But as I was reading the Gospels, I saw that Jesus... used his miracles to prove his ministry, and the Pharisees did interpret his miracles differently through their worldview, but that doesn't mean the miracles weren't sufficient proof. In fact, they were, and that's why they were so
Then why does he
condemnable.
say to the guy in torment, even though you rise from the dead, they will not believe?
Because the issue isn't the sufficiency of the proof; it's the fact that the person is rejecting the testimony of Moses because of their sins.
No, the point of that is that even if one rises from the dead, they won't believe. It's a miracle.
Right,
A
you can't
resurrection.
compel. Yeah, you can't compel someone.
But by your argument, that's one of the strongest proofs would be a bodily resurrection. And Jesus says that no, if they don't believe the scriptures, they're not going to believe that if one rises from the dead. So
Yeah,
so the miracles don't prove the faith.
My position is that it is proof, and that's why they're culpable for rejecting it, regardless of the miracle. That's why they're culpable.
Jesus says that even if one rises from the dead, they won't believe because they already don't believe in the inspiration of the scriptures.
Yeah, but that's a condemn. Just like whenever the Pharisees ascribed Jesus' miracles to Satan, he then condemned them for that because of the fact that the miracles did prove that he was.
Yeah,
but
there's nothing about the arbitrarily chosen ones that you've picked out. Like, oh well, an exorcism proves it, right? Because by the way, if you look at Galatians 1, when Paul makes that limitation on what you're supposed to judge these events by, he's not pulling that out of nowhere. It's actually based on Deuteronomy 13 and Deuteronomy 18, which already gave you the criteria by which you judge all signs and wonders. So are you aware of what Deuteronomy 13 and 18 say about that?
Yeah, it talks about like prophets who say something will come to pass, and if it doesn't, then they're a false prophet. But if it does, and they lead you to worship other gods, then you're to stone them as well, or you're to execute them as well. And I would say,
let me give you another, and I'm glad you said this because there's a very famous Coptic exorcist. Does that prove the Coptic Church? The Coptic exorcist on YouTube?
Well, I would say that it serves as evidence that God works in that church.
No, but wait a minute. Oh, so it's not a proof of the church because now God works in churches outside of the Catholic Church. You said that exorcisms prove the Catholic Church.
Not by themselves. It's
so now it's not that exactly.
It's a combination of things because
wait a minute. So now you're moving the goalpost. I thought exorcisms.
No, I'm not.
But you are because you said that exorcisms are better than apparitions, and those are the ones that we should look to. But when I give an example of Coptic exorcisms, no, that doesn't count.
Well, it doesn't have to prove it by it. I'm saying, for example,
but you moved
the Coptic Church misses that they don't have the qualifier of being a Catholic church. They're not universal.
Well, wait a minute. You don't even know what universal means because according to the Church Fathers, universal means fullness of truth. It doesn't mean the papacy. It doesn't mean numbers. You understand that it doesn't mean numbers. In the 4th century, the, quote, Catholic Church was reduced to a small handful of bishops. So do you think it equates to numbers?
No, but I do think that Jesus commanded the Great Commission be fulfilled and that
but wait a minute. Every counterexample you say doesn't count. So now numbers don't matter. So is it numbers or not that makes Catholicity?
Well, I don't think it's numbers. I think it's every tribe, tongue, nation, and people.
Well, I can agree to that, but I can agree that you can still be reduced to a small group, like in the Arian crisis in the 4th century. So did the church lose Catholicity in the 4th century?
It could be a small group, but not an ethnically, but not.
Where does the ethnic come into this?
Well, maybe I'm not too knowledgeable of Coptics, but it seems to me that they're very limited to a particular region.
They have multiple ethnicities who profess monophysitism or whatever, who are of that quote communion.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying, like, wouldn't it be confusing if God were to put these miracles in this church?
Wait a minute, isn't it? So why is it not confusing though for me to believe that the miracles are proving a group that has just now told me that Muslims and Christians worship the same God? How is that not confusing? So you're saying the miracle? I look to the miracles, not the documents and the dogmas.
No, I think that I suppose, it becomes an extended issue in terms of if Muslims and Christians worship the same God.
Do you believe that?
Do I believe? Yes, I do. In a sense, yes.
Oh, and what sense is that? Do you think Muslims think that?
No, Muslims would say I'm committing shirk.
Okay, so in what sense then does a person who denies multiple attributes of God and denies the deity of Christ in the triad worship the same God as a Christian?
Well, I mean, I understand that you.
No, I want to know.
You deny.
You tell me. Who cares what I think?
Well, I think that you would reject the fact that I'm saying that, you know, we both believe in one God, the God of Abraham. We believe in divine simplicity.
Oh, wait a minute. So do you know what the quantifier shift fallacy is?
It sounds as if you're saying that. Go ahead and tell me.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know it by that name.
That is when a person says, well, I believe in one God, you believe in one God, the Satanist believes in one God, therefore we all believe in the same God.
Right, yeah, no, I agree. But because
so if that's a fallacy, then how do you and the Muslim worship the same God? Because that was where you were going. Are you there? If you're there, we can't hear you. You can try to come back in. I don't know.